Hi, y'all. Y'all, where did that come from? I did come from Florida before this, but that y'all isn't normally part of my... Howdy, y'all. So how many of you have been told that you ask really good questions? Oh, yeah. Was anyone told by their adults when they were young about some specific questions that they asked that people thought were really either funny or insightful or like just really made people think? Do you remember any of those? No? Yeah? Good, I've got some here. Well, I'm going to tell you an example, and then I'm going to see if you all have some that you can share with us. So some of you know that I've got 2 kids who are adults now, and some of the best questions would happen in the car while they were in the car seat, in the back seat. The deepest conversations I feel like happened were car seat conversations. And my kids lived in some ways what would be seen as a traditional family, in some ways not. So they had one mother who identified as a female, and they had a father who identified as a male. But in our household, I worked as the mother, and the father stayed home with the kids. And that was a little bit different, although there was lots of families like ours. So when my oldest was 4, from the back seat, I got a question, "Mommy, when I grow up, am I going to be a man like Daddy or a woman like you?" Okay. I felt totally on the spot, and what was this question about? Is it about gender? Is it about gender roles? Is my child trying to tell me something about their gender? Are we getting into talks about sex that I need to gear up for? What is he asking? So I answered it in a way that I can tell you I would answer it totally differently now because I was thrown off and I'm not quite sure what I did, and I know a lot more about gender now than I did. But whatever I answered, what I remember is that he burst out crying. I clearly didn't answer it correctly. And then his response kind of floored me. He said, "I don't want to work at home like Daddy. I want to work in an office like you." For my 4-year-old, he thought that only women were allowed to work. And he thought that if you identified as a man, then your job was to stay home and take care of the kids. Needless to say, I was actually a little proud of that. And we continue to have more conversations. And it turns out that he is working in an office just like Mommy did and is very insightful. So I am wondering if any of you had a question when you were young or when you were now, or if you've got folks in your life who had a really interesting question. And it doesn't have to be super profound, but I'm going to go and hand some microphones. Lynn, can I use this one? Yeah, Jay.
I grew up in the military, and I went to a military school, and I asked my dad one day, "Why are there so many rules?" And my dad said, "There's only 2 reasons to make rules. 1, somebody screwed up and it costs a lot of money. And 2, somebody died because they screwed up. So think about the rule and think, how dumb do you have to be to die?" And that's why the rule is there.
Wow. Very interesting. Why do they make rules? I saw a couple over. I saw some. Did you have a question earlier?
I asked my mom a car question when I was in kindergarten, and I thought it was profound because I thought I had the answer. And the question was, why do we have to have money? I had decided that money was the source of it all, and my answer was Jimmy Carter should outrule all money, and then there would be no war, no stealing, et cetera, et cetera.
But I love the profoundness that you knew from the back of the car seat that money was the root of all of those things. And you wanted to fix it at that early age. So let's get rid of money, right? I love that. Easy peasy, yeah. Yeah. It gets harder as we do that. Yeah, did you have a question?
I asked my dad, why do you have to work? Because if I don't work, you won't have a home.
But that deep question, like, how do you answer that? Why do you have to work? There's a lot of answers to that, right? We have a lot of ways we have to think about that. Bela, did you ask an interesting question?
I asked one of my moms, why do some politicians play with immigrants' lives? And she said, like, something that they get kind of power obsessed.
Yeah. Why do some politicians play with immigrant lives? That's a very, very deep, profound question. And I would say with a lot of different kinds of lives. That's a very profound question, Bela. And these questions, sometimes you hear, the questions are often more important than the answers, right? On all of these that we're giving as examples, the questions are where the oomph is. The answers are often harder. Any other questions that, yeah, Kim?
When I was 13 and I was pretty devout Christian, I had a question about the Holocaust, and I asked my youth minister, so if we're supposed to believe in Jesus to be saved and go to heaven, but the Nazis purported to be Christians, did they go to heaven after killing all those Jewish people? And he hemmed and he hawed and he said something stupid like, well, they found Jesus towards the end, and I looked at him and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And he says, well, you think too much, especially for a girl, and it's not your job. And I said, you just said that to the wrong girl. And hence I left Christianity when I was 13 years old.
Wow. Even as you were going, I'm like, you didn't say that to Kim. No. Oh, my goodness.
I was older than I want to admit when I asked this question to my mom. Like, I said, how do you have a baby? And she said, if you love someone, you'll have a baby. So I thought about this for weeks, and finally I said, okay, if I have love a dog, can I can I have puppies? And I was so bummed when she said no.
I love this. Okay, one more from Owen.
When I was like 5, I asked my mom a really complicated math question because I genuinely thought she knew everything. And if you know my mom, it makes sense. And when she answered with she didn't know, it like confused me for a second, and it just started a whole conversation about how you have to navigate through life without knowing everything.
Okay, so what you're saying is your mom does know everything, because that's still a really good answer. Yes. Awesome. Wonderful. So one of the things that I think all of these have in common is we have in one of our songs that you're going to hear today, the line, the question is the answer. A lot of times it's the questioning that leads us to deep and profound ways to connect through questions. So thank you all for modeling that. That was kind of my point, and you've done it. We can call this day good. Check. And immediately after this, all the ushers are going to pick up any questions that you've written down. So if you haven't written anything down, this is your chance to do it as we send you all on back. Thank you for playing with me, participating with that.